Hi guys, how you doing? I thought today what we would discuss is what you should be charging minimum for your weddings and how we have to stop a race to the bottom. Hey guys, how you doing? My name's Paul Robertson and I thought today what we would do is discuss what the very minimum you should be charging for your weddings and what average weddings you should be doing per year. So for instance, I do around about 30 to 35 weddings a year, but if I do 30 then I'm more than happy with that because it gives me enough time to do the editing and produce a high quality product for my clients. It also means they're not waiting months and months and months for their wedding film because I have such a backlog. So I want to discuss today with you in regards to the very minimum you should be charging and how you've got to be very careful that you don't end up with a race to the bottom where it becomes no longer viable to even be a wedding videographer. It just doesn't make you enough money to give you a comfortable lifestyle. So I'm going to base it on Scotland. I'm going to base it on the living wage and the average salary and what you would need to charge for the living wage and what you would need to charge for the average salary. And I think sometimes where a lot of videographers forget is they have a figure in mind and they don't take into consideration all the other costs that come with being a videographer. So what I mean by that is you will have equipment, you will have insurances, food, clothes, you'll have software, you might have music licenses, and all this should be contributed and added into your costings when you're doing a wedding. So I'm going to base it on just now this scenario of one wedding, 50 mile there, 50 mile back, and we're going to base it on the living wage of £9.50, which is around about $12 an hour. So £9.50 living wage basically means that you can get by. It gives you enough money for the basic essentials, which is rent, clothes, fuel, and that's it. There's no luxuries included in this £9.50, of course. You know, you can't probably look at going abroad on holidays and buying nice things and getting more luxuries. That is just for you to get by on £9.50. So we have to break down our wedding costs, and we have to break it down first and foremost by our time. Now, I've based on an average wedding, including the trailer, editing full ceremony and speeches, around about 40 hours per wedding film. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it could be maybe a bit quicker, but I've based it on 40 hours. Okay, it's just a nice simple number. So if we base 40 hours and what you're doing on the living wage at £9.50, that means that you very minimum, in fact you can't even charge this, but very minimum you'd have to charge £380 per wedding, which we know is not workable, it's not feasible. So what we need to do is add on our costings and then have a base figure of the very minimum you can charge to get by. So we're going to say, as I said, we're going to do your time at 40 hours at £9.50, which is £380, and we're going to start off with the equipment. Now my equipment cost quite a lot because I've got two S5s, I've got an S1, I've got a GH5S, I've got monopods, gimbals, tripods, mics, I've got a drone, etc. So I'm going to base that my costings was £10,000. It's actually a lot more than 10,000, but let's just base it that you were going to spend £10,000 on getting a couple of cameras, memory cards, mics, gimbals, a drone, etc. And you were going to spend 10,000. So I would say my equipment's going to last probably around about 3 years. My equipment's probably going to last me, probably longer if I take good care of it. Other people might think that's a bit too long, but I'm just going to say on average my equipment's going to last me 3 years. Okay, and in that time I'm going to do 90 weddings because it's going to be 30 weddings a year. For 3 years that's 90 weddings. So I'm going to divide £10,000 by 90 weddings, which gives you a costing of £111 per wedding. So that's what you should be adding into your cost for your equipment. It also allows you to build and buy more equipment because you've already started to put this into your costings. So if you do get more weddings, what I did, any money that I got for my first couple of weddings, it went straight into equipment. I even took out when I got my lens, I took out a 12-month repayment because I didn't have the money straight up front. And a lot of people will probably, you might be in the exact same scenario. You might think, I don't have £10,000. So what you'll do is you'll maybe buy a lens or buy a kit, a camera with a lens, and maybe pay it up over 12 months. So we're just going to base it on £10,000 over 3 years. As I say, it's £111. Then you've got to take into consideration your fuel. Okay, you're putting money in the tank, and you know, fuel here in Scotland at the moment is atrocious. You know, it's around about £1.75 for diesel, £1.69 a litre for unleaded petrol. So I'm going to base, because we're going to this wedding, a 50 mile round or 100 mile round trip, we're going to spend £45 on fuel. Insurances. I have drone insurance. I also have public liability insurance, and that probably around about, what I'm going to do with that for you guys, just to make it simpler or simplify it, is I'm going to say that my yearly cost and then divide it by 30. So my yearly cost for my insurances is around about £420 a year, and divide that by 30 weddings gives me approximately £14 per wedding that I need to add on. And I've got my music licences, which comes to around about £400 odd a year, and again I'm going to divide that by 30 weddings, so it's around about £34 a wedding. And I've also got music. Now I use two music companies. I use MusicBed and I use Epidemic Sound. I pay it monthly, which is actually a wee bit more expensive than paying it yearly, because they give you a discount if you buy it for 12 months, which I'm going to start doing in the next couple of months once the contracts run out for the monthly payment. But at this moment in time, it works out around about £1,000 a year. So I'm going to divide that by 30 weddings. So you're looking around about £34 a wedding for my music licenses. And I've also got the hosting for the weddings. Now I use MediaZilla, and again I'm probably around about £450 a year for MediaZilla, because I pay that yearly, and that works out around about £15 per wedding. And I've also got software like Premiere Pro. I've also got emails, etc. that I pay for, website, the lot. So I average around about £38 for all my software per wedding. And then a lot of people forget about food and drink. Well, food and drink, I'm £10 a wedding I average. Now again, it's probably sometimes a lot more than that. Sometimes I spend, if I'm at a restaurant or what have you, you know, where the venue is, what I'll do is I'll maybe have a meal, and that could all average around about £30-40 for the meal and drink. But I'm just going to say £10. If you take a sandwich and coffee and all that kind of stuff, again I'm trying to be really generous here, and scrape the very bottom of what you should be charging. So we're just going to say just £10 for food and drink. And then for clothes, you're looking about £10 again, because people forget about trainers, jackets. You know, if you're out in the winter, you may have to buy umbrellas, you may have to buy a thicker jacket. So I'm going to base it on £10 a wedding. So even just only £300 a year just for clothes, which again, as you know, can sometimes a winter jacket could cost that alone. So all that added on to your hourly rate of £380, you're looking at a minimum, just to get by with no luxuries, £657, i.e. probably around about $800-900 per wedding for 30 weddings. That is a very minimum. If you go below that, you're starting to sacrifice either quality or you're sacrificing your hourly rate, and then, as I say, it then becomes no longer feasible, because you still need to have an income unless you've got another job, full-time job, and you're doing this on the side. It means that you're balancing two employments, and that can be extremely stressful. So So to get by and just to survive on the living wage, you would have to charge £657. So the basic salary, or the average salary, sorry, in Scotland is round about £25,600 a year. In full-time employment, 40 hours a week for 52 weeks a year is round about 25,616. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to average that salary, the average salary, and divide that by 30 weddings, which would give you £853.86 for your time, just to have the average salary in Scotland. So to add that 853 onto all your costings, you would have to charge £1,130 per wedding, which is around about $1,400, $1,500 a wedding, just to have the average salary. So as you can see the dangers of starting to reduce your price to such a level where it just no longer becomes feasible for you. Your quality will suffer because you have to do more weddings to make up the shortfall. And as soon as you start doing that, you will sacrifice on quality, because you know that there's a backlog starting to be created because you're out of the office, you're not editing. If you're doing 50, 60 weddings to make the same kind of money that you'd be on an average salary, that's averaging nearly one wedding a week, every week, is what you would be doing. And that's a huge amount of stress on you, and a huge amount of pressure. So what you really want to do is try and get to a level where you're charging more, you're still trying to keep the same amount of weddings going, but it improves on your equipment, it improves on your quality, it improves on the service you can offer, because your lifestyle is getting improved. You're not worrying about bills, you're not worrying about paying rent. So try and think about your hourly rate, where you want to be, and ensuring that you're not working yourself to the bone for very little money. And I think, again, as I say, in Scotland we have a habit of a race to the bottom. I've seen some videographers charging as low as £399. I mean, you've got to be doing a whole load of weddings, and it's a lot of pressure just to try and make up that kind of money. So I hope this has helped. I hope this has given you a wee bit of an insight into regards to what you should be hoping to achieve. Excuse me. And as I say, you should be looking at a figure that you should be charging is anything between £1,000 and £1,500. You want to get higher, of course. You want to get up to £2,000 a wedding, but of course, you're producing high quality cinematic wedding films for that, which does take time, and that's where you tend to find that a lot of the very, very good videographers that are charging these kinds of monies don't do the 30, 40, 50 weddings a year, because there's just no time for that, unless they're outsourcing their editing, which I don't think they are. It would be extremely time consuming. So I hope this helps. And the next one we'll talk about is should you have different wedding packages. So hope to see you on the next one. Thanks, bye.